Some of you may have noticed, depending on when you're watching this, that there haven't been any new videos in a while. Well, I'll be honest, I was feeling kind of tired, kind of burned out, and I decided I was going to take a little vacation. And during that time, I got in a lot more workouts, a lot more training. And I managed to hurt my wrist, managed to hurt my ankle, managed to hurt my shoulder all over again. But I do feel refreshed and ready to give you brand new, better videos. But either way, that's not what you're here for. You're here because you read the title, and you know we're going to talk about one punch and one punch only, the uppercut. I like to start by teaching the rear uppercut because I feel like it's a little bit more difficult than the lead uppercut, and if you can figure that one out, the lead is just that much simpler. So, starting in my southpaw stance, I'm going to turn my weight back onto my rear leg. I'm not just twisting here like I'm trying to do a loaded slip, I'm actually sitting back on that rear leg. From there, I'm going to turn my body back towards the lead leg and corkscrew my hand up to hit my opponent either in the face or in the body. The uppercut is a close range shot, so I don't want to be throwing my hand out like I'm throwing a cross or a jab. Instead, I want to keep it relatively close to me. Depending on how close he is, it can be here or slightly farther out there. What I don't want to do is drop my hand to create the up part of the uppercut. I don't want to come here and drop my hand down low and then try to scoop or bowl, as I like to say, at my opponent. I'm not throwing this from the shoulder. My hand is staying tight and it's only moving forward. It never moves backwards, it only moves toward my opponent. So again, I'm here, I do like a light slip and squat, turn towards my opponent, bang, and then come right back where I started. Again, I'm here. Here's a fun question. What are my feet doing when I throw an uppercut? And really, it's what are my feet doing when I'm throwing a punch? A lot of people feel like you can keep your feet flat on the ground and generate enough power through the rotation of the knees and the hips, and sure, maybe, but I tend to like lifting my heel off the ground when I punch. I'm not lifting my heel as though I'm doing a calf raise. It's like I'm trying to do a sprint and I'm pushing off the ground to go towards my opponent. My opponent is in front of me, not above me, so I'm not trying to get tall by doing a calf raise. I'm trying to throw myself forward at him. This is where the power comes from. The more whip I can generate from the ground up, the more I'm going to have in this hand. Like I said, the rear uppercut for me is slightly more technical than the lead uppercut, so once you figure this one out, the lead should be no problem. Once again, I'm going to push forward now onto my lead leg and go into a slight quarter squat. The way I like to think about this is if I'm eye line with my opponent, I want my head to get just below eye line. From this point, I can throw a good uppercut to the body or to the head. If I get any lower, I'm at risk of a knee if I'm doing Muay Thai or of a counter punch if I'm doing boxing. I don't need to get super low to throw my punch, although that is sometimes the option. I want to just get low enough to create power from the hip squat. If I'm here, yes, I can still throw a decent enough uppercut, but I'm not going to get enough power that I can get from really loading up that hip. A quick note before we go more in depth on the lead uppercut. What I want to do here is sit forward on the lead leg in position 1, and then in position 2, as I throw the punch, I'm going to sit back onto the rear leg. It's again that push and pull motion. I'm pushing forward to load up the punch, pushing backwards to throw the punch. You can sit all the way back on your rear leg, that's totally fine, or you can come just right back to your neutral stance, whichever one works. What I don't want to do is sit forward on my lead leg and throw the punch totally from here. This is as good a time as any to talk about what my shoulders are doing. In general, when I throw my punches, I want my shoulder to come all the way up to my cheek, or at least close enough to it. With the uppercut, you don't quite have to do that. It does help, but as long as you get a little shrug with your punch, you're gonna get even more power. And again, generating as much power from the punch as possible is what we're looking for here. So, putting those two together, I sit back on the rear leg, there's my rear uppercut, fall into my lead uppercut, and boom, there it is. Again, I'm here. Another thing to keep in mind is the angle my punch is coming from. When I throw the lead uppercut, I want my punch to come straight out at my opponent. Again, I was talking about this earlier with the hand drop, but it's the same thing here. If I turn to the side and try to corkscrew the punch in like this, yes, that's a viable punch, but that's not the way you want the traditional uppercut to work. I want it to come straight from underneath my opponent. The assumption is either I'm coming in underneath his guard, as in hitting him underneath the chin, or I'm stepping to the side and corkscrewing into the rib or into the lat or whatever. I don't want to come here and angle the punch like this. This is more like a shovel hook or a shovel uppercut or a liver shot, whatever you want to call it. But with these punches, you're not going straight in like you are with the uppercut. You're adding a slight angle to them. It's not wrong, it's just something different. All right, so in my opinion, the best bag to work your uppercuts on is the wrecking ball bag. Actually, it's technically the uppercut bag, which is specifically designed for that, but most of us are going to have something like this in our garage or in our gym, so this will work for now. If you can get the uppercut bag, go ahead and brag about it. when I'm working the uppercuts, I don't want to start out here in my long punching range. You might find yourself doing the inverted punch, which we'll talk about later, and that's fine, but just know that you're not actually doing the uppercut when you get there. What I want to do from here is work my way into the close range so that now I can throw the uppercut as it's meant to be thrown. If I'm throwing it from out here, that's a completely different punch. So I'm going to start here in my long range, throw some shots, and work my way in for those uppercuts. Now that I'm here nice and close, I can work my tight ups or my tight hooks, or if I'm in a style that does it, my elbows. But I don't want to be way out here. So those are our standard uppercuts, starting with the rear uppercut and moving on to the lead. Now let's talk about some cousins of the uppercuts. They're not exactly the same punch, but they're close enough to be classified in the same family. Starting with the rear once again, we're going to talk about the inverted punch, or as it's called in karate, the urazuki. The urazuki is a very common punch in a lot of karate styles, and essentially what you're doing is instead of punching with the palm down, you're doing it with the palm up. Traditionally, the way this is taught, you stand here with your hands in the chamber position, and you throw your hand right down the center line. The way I was taught it is you don't want your elbow to come too far from the body. I don't super know why that is, aside from trying to protect the center line, Wing Chun style, but the way I do it, I let my elbow come forward like I would with the cross. Either way works, whatever your preference is. Think with point karate, they let the hand stay nice and low. Why do they do that? It's because they're playing at a longer range. When you're talking Muay Thai or boxing, you're a little bit closer with your opponent, right? You keep them nice and close so you can touch them pretty quickly. With point karate, the goal is to only touch them once. So you can keep your hands down because there's no point in keeping them up. They're not coming in here trading punches. It's one punch, that's all you gotta worry about. Now, the angle in this punch. You can throw your arm completely straight like you were doing a cross, but if you have the ability to do this, you might as well just throw the cross. I like keeping a slight angle in my arm. Again, I'm trying to come from underneath the opponent. So if my hand is down low, I keep that angle in. It's a very wide, like whatever that is, 95-degree angle, 180-degree angle, whatever, but I'm letting the arm stay slightly bent. This lets me sneak it in and back out much easier. Now, you might debate the efficiency of that punch, but I can tell you from personal experience, I have landed the inverted punch a lot more than I land a lot of other punches because it's not quite a cross and it's not quite an uppercut, so it's very hard to read it. So if you get good at throwing that inverted punch, you'll piss off a lot of karate haters. You can totally throw a lead hand inverted punch the exact same way you do the rear hand inverted punch. Like I said, the way I was taught it was from the hands chambered in this position, but I like to add a slight modification to make it slightly more effective for me. In this case, instead of doing the standard urazuki, I like to do what's known as the screw shot or the up jab. Now, I personally don't like calling it the up jab because I've seen the up jab done a couple different ways. Screw shot's pretty much done consistently the way I'm going to show you now, but whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. A rose by any other name still smells just like a punch. Anyway, unlike with the uppercut, where I want to push my weight back, I want to keep my weight on this lead foot and turn my hip. I'm very heavy on my lead foot now, giving me even more range with this punch. Once again, I'm here, I step in, boom, there's my punch. The lower you keep your hand, the easier it is to rise with that screw shot. If my hand is high, I have to drop it before I throw the punch, which, if we're talking about milliseconds, doesn't make that big of a deal. But if you're maybe not the fastest person and you're looking to get more efficient, maybe try keeping that hand low, drop in, boom, there's your punch. So I know I said a minute ago that the wrecking ball bag was the best option for practicing uppercuts, but there's nothing wrong with practicing on the heavy bag. You just gotta modify your technique a little bit. Because with the wrecking ball bag, I can dig straight up into the bag. It's got that little curve that allows me to do it. Obviously with the heavy bag, that's not the case. But if I get in this close range, rather than trying to scrape up the bag, I just cut my punch short and dig into it. So again, I'm in close now here, boom, there's my rear up, there's my lead up. Now, when we talk about the inverted punch, I wanna be far away from the bag. I wanna be here in the long range, where I can throw my jab, my cross, my lead teep, whatever. Because again, the inverted punches and the screw shot are long range punches. So I'm gonna be here in the long range, keep my hands a little bit lower, and now instead of dropping like I would when I throw the uppercut, I'm just gonna turn my hip forward like I would with the cross, but let my hand shoot forward and then return back where it came from. I don't wanna hyperextend my elbow. I don't wanna be here completely locked out. To be honest, you don't wanna do that with any punch. You never wanna hyperextend your arm on any punch because that runs the risk of hurting your elbow. And if you keep a slight bend in your elbow, it gives you even more snap in your punch. So the same thing applies with the inverted punch. And because again, we're talking about an arcing punch, you wanna keep that arc in the hand. That's the inverted punch. What about the screw shot? I'm gonna be slightly farther out on this shot. I can do it from here. I can just turn into the shot, that's fine. But I like practicing dropping my weight onto that lead foot. Again, I'm going to be here in the long range, step forward, putting my weight on my left foot, and I'm going to push even more weight into my screw shot. Again, I'm here, keep my hand low. All right, guys, there was a breakdown of the uppercut, the inverted punch, and the screw shot. Hopefully at least one of those things resonated with you. And if they did, please be sure to drop a comment. And if they didn't, and you hated everything I did today, then please drop a comment telling me how much you hate me. That's the best way for me to grow this channel, or hurt my feelings, whatever one you want to do. That being said, if you happen to like the gear I was wearing today, and you want to pick some of it up for yourself, say for example, these OD green gloves, head on over to combatcorner.com and use code BBUrazuki at checkout for 10% off. That code is only good for 1 week, so if you want them, get them now. And if you want to get yourself some official combat self-defense merch, head on over to combatsd.square.site and pick up the t-shirt, tank top, coffee mug, tote bag, or anything else we have in the store. And I'll let you in a little secret. I'm working on some new designs, so if you don't just want the logo, stay tuned. That all being said, if you're looking for a channel that combines the practicality of combat sports with the reality of self-defense and the fun of traditional martial arts, then please be sure to subscribe, tap the notification bell, like, share, and you guessed it, leave a comment. This has been Rob from Combat Self-Defense. I want to thank you guys for all the hard work. Thank you for the hard work yet to be done, and I'll see you next time.